finally do what we want to do. This is the whole thing that we need to do.
Oh, dude, come on. You know what? Really, really, Tony? Really? Are we at Mall of America here?
Of course, you're referencing Tony Schiavone at the WCW. Yeah, no. I know, man. Just no, like this is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I know that this is something that you've been wanting to do a long time. So it's just nice to know that we're finally doing this.
Hey, you know what? I definitely agree, man. It's one of those things where it's been a chore to set up and everything, but I think for definitely we're ready to go.
Absolutely, man. So then
So what are we talking about this week, man?
we're talking about let's run it back. Let's run it back to 1996, 20 years ago. No, 20 years ago. Dang, 30 years ago. My bad.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
30 years ago, the Monday Night Wars, the NWO, Stone Cold Steve Austin, all that stuff, man.
So we're gonna go to war right here, right now already. First episode of the season, and you want to go to war about this.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, let's do it.
But indeed, man, let's do it.
Well, you tell me, Fernie. I mean,
What's up?
really, where did the Monday Night Wars start?
Well,
Do you
I mean,
consider
if
them starting in 95, or do you consider it starting in 96 when NWO?
no, well, I mean, the wars were officially started. You have to go back, I think, a little bit earlier. So, like, I think it was about 94, 95, where TNT, I believe, is coming out with WCW Nitro. So, like, they're supposed to be the competition, right? But at the same time, though, the WWE is going through their own turmoil. They lose guys like Razor Ramon and Diesel, aka Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. They lose, and because the contracts, that's where it basically starts right there, where you have Fight! Two of the most notable and the biggest stars at that time in WWE jumping ship, and they go to the WCW, and it's the very first Nitro we see Scott Hall, and he's in this. I guess it's called a Canadian tuxedo with the cutoffs.
God, yeah, okay.
Remember that where he's like he's coming in there and he's in the Razor Ramon character, but it's his real name, Scott Hall.
Right.
So yeah, because of licensing, you couldn't use the in ring names. So they just went with Scott Hall because Scott Hall, of course, and that was the name that he was going by when he was in WWE.
All right. Well, dude, I think we're all set here. Let's go ahead and let's dissect these Monday Night Wars and let's figure out maybe if there really was a winner or if we as the consumer lost in the end.
Right.
So, everyone, you know what? Let's go ahead and blow the dust out of our cartridges. Make sure you drop a quarter into the slot and let's get started.
Fight. So yeah, I mean, because when you really look at the wars, I mean, you look at Ted Turner, and it's very famous that Ted Turner called Vince McMahon. He says, "Hey, I'm in the wrestling business," and Vince McMahon says, "Well, I'm in the entertainment business." I think we've heard this story over and over again, where WCW comes around and it's Monday night, and it's the very first night show, and here comes Scott Hall. He's just Scott
Well, but
Hall
well,
just cuts
hold
a
on a
promo.
second there though.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that though because think about when Monday Nitro started.
Hmm.
We're talking this is 1995, September of 95.
Okay.
So, first Monday Nitro filmed completely live.
Hmm.
Okay? So, do you think maybe that could have been possibly the start of this whole thing? Because Vince McMahon, I mean, he had Monday Night already with the wrestling thing with Monday Night Raw. But, when it became a live thing and people were actually at this live event, where Monday Night Raw was pre-recorded. They recorded
Hmm.
it on, whatever Friday night house show that they were at and
Hmm.
used it as, whatever, saying they were from this place when in all actuality, they were from that place, but it was recorded 2 nights in advance.
Hmm. Right. And that was the difference, I mean, like very famously, Eric Bischoff, he went to Ted Turner and he said, "Hey, give me Monday night. I want Monday night. I want to compete with WF." And Ted Turner was like, "Okay, what else do you want? Instead of pre-recording, I want to make it live, like right on the spot." make it feel chaotic. That's what I want to do.
Right.
Make it feel real. Make it feel chaotic.
See, and
So then,
I think that was ingenious because by doing that, you're already one up on the competition because it's a live show. That
mhm,
means whatever happens, there is no dirt sheets on it. There's no rumors coming out that this happened on Monday Night Raw
right, right, right,
and,
right, right.
or on the filming and somebody already knows about it.
Hmm.
And then
So
as the wars go on through the 90s, we see the outcome of that and we see how it really may have hurt WCW by playing dirty like that.
you saw the name itself, Monday Night Wars, war.
Oh yeah,
You're willing to do anything to win a war, and that's exactly what they were doing. Because they were sending guys out. Obviously, they were sending guys out to see the WWF events, and guys were just saying, "Okay, so this guy won, this guy." So, like in the middle of the broadcast of WCW, where at the same time when they were on with WF Monday Night Raw, they would just give the results because the guys that were working for WCW knew the results, would report back to Eric Bischoff and tell him, "Hey, this is what happened." And that's
exactly.
all. That's what people need to know. So this is the time before DVRs. We didn't have DVRs back then. We didn't know what a DVR was. It was nothing that kind of technology
Yeah,
existed. So
it was the time of the classic blisters on the thumb because you're switching back between the channels so much
mhm,
that you don't want to miss Nitro because this is happening and you don't know what's going to happen, but you don't want
yeah,
to miss Raw because oh my God, you know that Stone Cold is going to splash Vince McMahon with a beer truck.
yeah, exactly. And it was that kind of stuff where, well, it was still at that time where WWF was still doing their goofy gimmicks. They were still in that new generation era where it was Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart
Bret Hart.
really pushing that the company. They were the faces of the company basically.
Some of those bigger names like Yokozuna and stuff started to leave the company also. So
Hmm.
you had that younger ability or that younger generation to start coming up and taking over.
No, yeah, because that was just the way it was in WWF, and they really pushed those guys, and of course they also pushed the Undertaker as well. It's kind of funny when you look at it because with the Undertaker, as goofy as that gimmick was, it's the only one to really survive. It went on for 30 something years,
Oh yeah,
being
you're talking the actual Undertaker gimmick.
yeah, the Undertaker
Yeah.
gimmick.
Yeah,
Because if
because
you
I
see
mean
this,
if you think about it though, look at that. Mark Calloway, where did he come from? He came from WC
and he came from that
and
WCW, yeah,
and the guys at WCW told him he'd never amount to anything. They said he didn't have it.
yeah.
I think it was Dusty who told him that.
And it's weird how you have like these, like the two companies, they tell these big stars that end up crossing over to another company and they become these huge stars, like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold
Stunning
Steve
Steve
Austin,
Austin, there
stunning
you
Steve
go.
Austin with that long blonde hair.
Now hold on a second. You wanna laugh at this, think about Scott Hall. Did you know he was WCW before he went WWE?
You know what?
Before he was Razor Ramon?
You know what? I don't think I did. I don't think I did. Where
Yeah,
what was
he actually wrestled in WCW.
under what moniker? Is it like his name?
I do not remember the moniker. I'm gonna have to Google that maybe. I it was one of those I saw and I heard his voice when he was talking, and
Mhm.
I'm like, "That sounds like Scott Hall," and I ended up having to Google it, and it
Right.
was.
Is the time when he had that barbell mustache? Is that what that was? That the
Yeah,
barbell
he
that
played like some like cowboyish type character, one of the like the young guns of that age. It was like the young shooters or
mhm.
something. I think about him going to WWF and he's Razor Ramon. And that's what I mean,
Uh,
he blew up in WWF under that character.
gotcha. Gotcha. No, no, okay, I didn't know that.
And it's you see a lot of these characters who Vince was using as, these gag, goofy, comedic, cartoonish type wrestlers. You
Mhm.
had Kane as Dr. Isaac Yankem.
Exactly. So anyway, where would we live off with? Oh yeah, he was like a Scott Hall cowboy, right? Okay.
Yeah, and then, if you think about it, you had, like we said, we had Kane, who was Dr. Isaac Yankem, DDS.
Do Dwight Yankum. It was Dwight Yankum. No, that's a singer.
No, it was
No,
it. Yeah, it was actually Isaac Yankem,
Isaac Yankem. Yeah, I remember Isaac Yankem.
and
I remember walking down Walmart and looking at this figure of this dentist with his bad teeth, and it was Kane dressed, but in this white dentist
dental outfit.
uniform, and with his
Yeah,
bad teeth, and I'm just like, what is this?
and I think I think most definitely you know maybe Americans or the world in general, maybe they were just bored of that cartoon stuff. They wanted something more realistic, something more, more.
Well, yeah, I
What's the
mean,
word?
if you want to get real about it, it may have started with Shawn Michaels when he did that promo for was it the Piper? No, no, not Piper's Pit. It was for
The barbershop.
the barbershop. Yeah, when he kicked Marty Jannetty and then he threw him right through the glass. That we never saw anything like that. We never
Yeah,
saw. We're like, what is this? This is crazy. Like, what's going on? And I think that's where it started off with that. I think that's where it started off with that little bit of reality. That's like that little bit of that. That's something that we've never seen before.
right. Yeah, and then in '95, then you had the beginning of Monday Nitro, where Eric Bischoff was like, "Hey, I've got a blank checkbook from Ted Turner. Here we go." We had Monday Nitro starting in '95. What was it? Right about September or July of '95, and you have it being shown from the Mall of America, live
Yep.
from Minneapolis in the Mall of America, where Hulk Hogan is right there next to Pastamania, promoting his product on top of, running a promo for WCW for the event, the main event that night.
Yeah. 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 No, no, he came out later on. Is
Was
that
the
the exact
exact
same?
day. Then the worst part
That
about
died.
it is Lex Luger had just wrestled in a pay-per-view the week before. He had just wrestled at a live house show the night before that happened. He showed up and he wasn't even under contract with WCW yet.
That's
Like,
wild, man.
that is insane,
Yeah.
and all because Eric Bischoff was the better businessman in the sense of, I've got what you need. We
Hmm.
have, Ted Turner's money, and I will give you what you want.
Yeah, and then they already have the national spot with TNT, a well-known cable provider. So
Right?
yeah, I mean, they had everything set up. They had everything ready to go. So it's just, I remember, yeah, like look at that white buttoned-up shirt, like went up to his no neck, his
Yeah,
thumb
is that
neck.
that Congudo collar type shirt. One of our buddies used to wear that all the time. He didn't like wearing ties, and he would wear that type of collar. Besides myself, I did that because I like that look and collar. I don't like things around my neck, so having that type of collar, it leaves just enough of a gap so it feels comfortable.
uh, I don't know, man. I always thought, man, that is like a centimeter close to being
Uh-oh. Hold on, dude.
pirate
Check
ship.
this out. We got a munchkin here. You want
Munchkin?
Oh,
Nah, she's not a munchkin.
there she is.
No, she's not a munchkin anymore. No, no, you can't use that word no more. No, no,
Yeah.
you're too big to be munchkin. No, no,
You
you're
gonna
a
you
full
gonna
grown.
say hi to everybody?
You're an oak
No
tree.
words? How was your trip? Awesome.
She's an oak tree. That's not a munchkin
Oh,
anymore.
dude,
No, no, no.
she's getting so big so fast. Can you believe that?
Jeez, man. Eighth grade. Speaking of eighth grade,
That
what
was 95, 96.
95, 96. So those are on the same time as as the Monday night. So
Yeah.
that's perfect timing.
That's when it all started for us.
Yeah, yeah. So
You know,
then,
but here's something to think about on that.
mm,
Okay? With that going on in 95, early 96.
mm.
Okay, Eric Bischoff, has this great plan. He's put it out there. He's really What was it about Monday Nitro that really drew people in? What do you think it was? Besides the fact that it was live.
Well, I mean, it was competition. You had two actually big known companies that were going head to head with each other. And the appeal with WCW though was that they already gotten the older talent from WWF. The ones that were pushed out, like you had your Roddy Piper, you had the Macho Man Randy Savage,
Right, Ric
Hulk
Flair,
Hogan.
Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, you had all these big stars that were established already going to WCW. There were still names. There were still names in the wrestling business, and WWF, they're pushing these guys that, well, we knew who they are, but we didn't really grow up with them, So I think it was that appeal that these guys, these established wrestlers, these established guys that were already had a fan base, had that fan base go over to WCW. And that was the appeal. It's like, these guys aren't done yet. Like, so
Right.
why are they being
Well,
pushed out of WWF?
right. What about the cruiserweights? I mean, because WWF didn't have cruiserweights.
Exactly. And
They didn't
that was
have
a
a
big
mid
advantage.
card, and the cruiserweights I think were an awesome mid card.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing though, is that they wanted to be different
Yeah,
from WWF, because like the WWF, you basically had, it was the championship, the IC, tag team.
and that was it
That was it. That was it at that time.
at that time.
So then they were like, well, what else can we do? Like, what can we do? So with WCW, so then that's when they started bringing these cruiserweights, these guys that were pure athletes that could do stuff that you've never seen before.
Well, yeah, guys
Guys
like
that
Eddie
were
Guerrero, Dean
Dean,
Malenko,
Dean Malenko, yeah.
Rey
Even
Mysterio.
Chris Jericho started as a cruiserweight.
Well, but and you know what's funny though is look at all of those wrestlers that we just named. Okay,
Hmm.
you've
Hmm.
got that classic four pack right there of cruiserweight wrestlers.
Hmm.
Did you know that they were poached?
They were poached from like right from ECW.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah, I did know that because I remember. I remember specifically. I remember that when Rey Mysterio made his debut on ECW, and also Eddie Guerrero.
Hmm.
Yeah, when they had their ECW moment. Yeah.
See, and it's funny because, I think about the Monday Night Wars, and a lot of people don't factor in ECW into those Monday Night Wars. But I think in all actuality, ECW, I
Hmm.
think they were really the research and development for both companies.
Well, is that a lot of people discontinue ECW because ECW was
It was
considered to
so
be
violent.
or raunchy.
Right.
They
But
were the
if
ones
you
that
but
really
if you
pushed the
really think
envelope.
about it, look at the direction these companies went.
Yeah, like, oh, I mean, kind of with WWF, they went on the same level as them with, like, kind of with the raunchiness. When you had Val Venus, the
Right?
supposed porn star,
Right, you
come
had
out.
Val Venus, or you had DX with all of their
Yeah, with
innuendo
the
prompts and promos
sucky.
and
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. No, we were introduced to Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Yeah, and the Road Dog and all those guys. Yeah, and then
But see, with ECW during that time, like during those early 90s, 94, 95, 96, I would
mhm,
say 95, 96, like to keep in the time frame we're talking about.
mhm.
ECW was also that company that used regular hard rock music for their entrances. They basically stole it. They didn't pay, you know, royalties on them or anything like that.
Well, yeah, because
They wrestled out of a bingo hall.
yeah, but that's because they didn't have any distribution rights.
Right.
They
They
didn't
were
have
that
any
true
broadcasting.
indie wrestling,
Yeah.
and I really think both companies really use that as a maybe this might be a direction to go, but make it a little more TV friendly.
I mean, with ECW, I think at that time the only way you could actually get anything from ECW were that you had to order tapes. They were on TNN. They were on
Yeah,
TNN for like a year.
late night TNN. I remember what was it, Friday nights? I think you and me would watch episodes of it on like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and seeing the
In
Sandman
syndication.
wrestle.
In syndication, yeah. I remember during that time here in EP, we had two channels. We had two channels that were outside of the normal. It was Channel 48, which was a channel out of Las Cruces, I think, that we got here.
Oh, was that UPN?
That was the UPN one, right?
Okay.
And then we had Channel 65, which was CW or WB at that time, WB.
Yeah,
And
okay. Yeah, I remember
when
those channels.
yeah, when they didn't have their broadcasting those we were when they weren't broadcasting the UPN network or WB network shows late at night,
Right.
that they had ECW. And I remember watching, I'm like, what is this? This is who's Raven? Who's the Sandman? Who's Taz? Who are these guys?
No,
So
exactly. And
yeah.
that was exactly the whole thing about ECW was that they were just very indie style wrestling that I think really, for Eric Bischoff, it was a, hey, you know what? Let me use this, watch this company, see what they're doing. And Eric Bischoff talked with Paul Heyman. I mean, Paul Heyman was a promoter at the time. Paul Heyman was a genius. I mean, I hate to say it, but the guy was a masterful promoter.
No, yeah, he knew what he was doing. He knew he had to put asses in seats, and that's what he put.
And
He
that's
put
exactly
asses in
what he
seats.
did. Look at how violent ECW truly was. You had, what was the guy's name? New Jack, I think it was, who
Oh my god.
almost killed a 17-year-old in a match because the kid lied about his age.
But that's, I mean, yeah, that's one of those crazy things that you hear from back in the day. But yeah, but New Jack is one of those guys
And
that
that he was a brutal wrestler. I mean,
yeah, that was the definition of brutality. Yeah, they used a lot of his matches for examples of ECW, which is not fair because ECW had some really good matches, but because of New Jack's, and or if you want to say antics,
right.
it got that reputation.
Did you ever, in any of your time growing up and, watching some of those old videos and stuff, I mean, they're available on the web,
Yeah, yeah, online you
all
can see
over the
him
place.
on
Did
YouTube.
you
Yeah,
ever
yeah,
see the one where the Sandman got crucified by Raven's flock
yeah.
or Raven's cult?
I never got to see that.
Yeah, I've recently
That's
I've recently heard and read about it, but I've
mm,
never actually seen it. So,
right.
I mean, we're definitely gonna have to look into that and, use that as some episode fodder one of these days. I think that would be pretty
That's
interesting.
wild. That's wild.
I mean, it
Wow.
it got to the point where Kurt Angle threatened to sue them because of it.
ECW?
Yeah.
Really? For that?
Yeah, he was there as a backstage visitor. Yeah. Any religion is fine,
Right,
whatever religion is okay. But
right.
something as blatant as that, that's that's risky.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, but it put asses in seats.
And that's exactly what it did.
Uh,
Think about the start of the NWO. I mean, that's
mhm,
that's what started the whole 83-week run of
mhm.
dominance for WCW.
Yeah,
You
no,
know?
because I mean, yeah, because I mean, when you see that first promo of the NWO, it just looks like they hijacked the signal.
Mhm.
They hijacked the signal, and it looks like a promo that they shoot, and it's just like this black and white, very
Grainy, very gritty.
grainy. Yeah, very grainy and gritty. That's what it was. They were looking for something gritty, and you got it from the NWO. And that first promo, you're hooked. That
Oh,
first promo,
yeah.
I saw that, and you're like, okay, okay, all right, I'm in. And you see,
See,
of
now
course,
now
the
think
three
about
guys.
think about even, I don't remember if the promo happened before or after the Scott Hall walking out and, "You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here," type, comment because at the
Oh, that came
time.
way after. Yeah,
Yeah, but at the time, that was the first introduction of the NWO. So, like the actual true who is the NWO. So now it's starting, and you're seeing this WWE wrestler who you just saw on a pay per view the night before.
and you see, that's the beauty of the pre-internet era.
Yeah.
With the internet era, they would have been leaked like that. Like he's going to WCW, and he's gonna do blah blah blah. It would have been spoiled.
Oh yeah, we
Then that's
would
the
we would have been hearing about contract problems weeks before this actually happened.
exactly when you see even today where someone from WWE walks away and they go to TNA or they go to All Elite Wrestling, they go to those other companies, but you already hear about it. There's
Right.
no shocker. There's no they
Well,
even
prime
last
example.
year.
You know what? Prime example. Mick Foley just last weekend at Double or Nothing.
Yeah,
Everybody knew. Like 2 days in advance, you get a big YouTube, thumbnail video. It says Mick Foley is All Elite,
yeah.
and
And
it
then you had
spoils the hype.
exactly, and then you had even last year when Penta, when he came to WWE,
Right?
there was everybody knew. They said exactly the worst kept secret
Yeah.
in wrestling that he was going to, and it doesn't change. Like I don't think the pop changes when the people hear it, but it's not the same. Like when you saw Scott Hall come out, people's jaw dropped. They're like what is he doing here? Like he's not supposed to be here. He's supposed to be in WWF. Why is
Right.
Razor
He just
Ramon walking through here?
exactly. It's a. You know what? I just saw him win the belt last night. So, what is he doing on a WCW arena
Broadcast. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
broadcast?
the spontaneous feeling that you don't know what's gonna happen
I
because
loved it.
live. Yeah, yeah, no, no. When I saw it too, I was like, "Wait, like, what's going on?" And, nobody knew what was going on unless you were in that room with the negotiations, unless you were there, you knew everything about it, but nobody knew about that.
Right.
So, yeah, that's also the thing about, it being live because it's that spontaneous feeling, anything could happen.
Oh yeah, no, and see, and one of the really cool things about it that definitely we don't have this anymore, but it's that storyline driven show. It really was because at the you think about it, May 1996, you see at the end of WCW, at the end of the match, you see Scott Hall walk out, Mr. Razor Ramon, you know who I am, but you don't know why
Don't
I'm
know
here.
why I'm here,
It's
yeah.
like, wow, okay, you've got me. I'm hooked. I want to know what you're doing here because I just saw you or lose your belt last night.
Mhm,
And then, a week later, Kevin Nash arrives and he
mhm,
walks right out with them. And now you're
yep.
like, shit, this is WWF is taking over. They're coming in. It's the outsiders. Like these guys are
Yeah,
like,
those are Vince guys. Those guys are Vince
yeah.
guys. Like, what are they doing here at this Dallas? Like, what are they doing here? What do they want?
And then so we're talking that was May of 96. The third person was introduced at Bash at the Beach, and that was in August of
I,
96.
I want to say August '96. That's about right. Yeah.
That was
Hmm.
in Daytona, I think, in August or July of 96.
Right.
So even then, that's a 2 month thing that they come out, they beat up Eric Bischoff and the announcers, and
They start beating up these other wrestlers, and they're known as the outsiders
there you go,
because
right.
that's what their gimmick was at the time.
But okay, so then now we come to Bash at the Beach, 96 in Daytona. You've got Lex Luger, Sting, Macho Man Randy Savage versus the Outsiders plus one, and don't know who it is. Everyone suspected who it was, but we didn't have really an idea.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, Hulk Hogan's music comes on. Dun 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 dun. Dun. You see him start walking down in the yellow and red, and then all of a sudden, big boot to Macho Man Randy Savage, drops the leg on him, and pins him.
Still today, the best heel turn ever.
That heel turn
Listen,
was
listen. I despise Hulk Hogan because we knew the piece of shit that he ended up turning into,
well,
or
but
that we
but
found
we
out that he
didn't
was
know
later.
that back then.
But
He
but
really wasn't
but
that
I will
bad
give
back
him that.
then.
But I'll give him that credit though, because he had a huge, massive fan base. He had a
Oh yeah.
he had probably the biggest fan base in all of wrestling, and to see him make that decision to turn, it was genius. It was a genius move on Eric Bischoff's behalf. It really
I
was. To try
I
to make
really
him.
do agree. Yes, and it was. I would have loved to be the fly on the wall to watch how many kids' hearts just got broken when
Not
that
not even
happened.
not even little kids, like adults.
Adults our
Adults
age.
that grew up watching Hulk Hogan, their
Yeah.
hero, this guy that said, you take your vitamins and
Eat your
blah blah blah,
veggies.
eat
Yeah.
your veggies, yeah, and you'll be like the Hulkster, and tears the shirt up and everything. We grew up with that. That was our dude. That was our hero. And then when he turned heel, we were like,
Seeing him take
what's going
seeing him
on?
take out that spray can, and spray NWO on Macho Man Randy Savage. And don't get me
Hmm.
wrong, I'm a Macho Man Randy Savage fan. I
Hmm.
really do enjoy Macho Man Randy Savage.
Hmm.
But watching that, it was just like, yeah, this is what wrestling needed to become. More
Yeah.
of that live action.
If you really look at the WCW or the WWF model, where it was from the 1980s up until this point right there, it was, gimmicks, a little bit of stories, they had vignettes, they had all these things, but they didn't capture that reality moment. It was all fantasy. It was all, like this is our world, this is what we
Right.
are. It never had that crossover into that reality until you saw him put out that streak, that spray can, and he NW on his back. You're like, okay, wait, hold on. Like, what's going on? What is this? What
Oh
is
yeah,
this? I've never seen this before. This is
I've
wild. This
never
is
yeah.
crazy.
That heel turn was just it is definitely going to be one of the most memorable heel turns, ever, for anybody of our
Yeah,
generation.
easily. If you're gonna talk about the most shocking moments in wrestling, like not like beyond the ring stuff, like
Right.
or Dark Side of the Ring, but like when you're actually watching it live
Mhm.
and you're watching it right there and it's in the script, it's one of the I think top 5 most shocking things ever in wrestling.
Yeah. You can talk about different matches that we've seen. I mean, think about the Terry Funk and Cactus Jack matches that we saw in ECW. When Terry Funk asks a single person for a chair and he gets like almost 100 chairs thrown into the ring.
What? Only 100?
Oh no, I definitely know it was more than that. I mean, dude, I watched him bury somebody under all those chairs. Now,
Yeah,
here's the question to ask about that though. What kept that person from the front row who just got beamed by a chair, safe? Like, where was the safety in all of that?
Mike, it's in the name. ECU, Extreme Championship Wrestling. That's what it was. That's what they were thinking on. They wanted to be different.
Right.
They wanted to be different, and that crowd is still.
But then you also see that at that same time when Hulk Hogan has his heel turn. You see that. Do you remember all the crap that got thrown into the ring by the
Yeah, but
by the people?
yeah, but they didn't throw chairs.
No, they were
They
throwing
didn't.
beer bottles.
Yeah, they're throwing bottles, and when Scott Hall gets hit in the head with the Coke can, or like
Yeah.
with the Coke can, like he still comes up looking cool. I mean, who does that? Who does that? Still, you still come up looking cool. But yeah, but like it was
Well,
that
I mean,
beginning of that
mind
era where they
mind you though,
started
you
throwing
got to
that
think
stuff.
about it. All those chairs at that time were bolted down, so they couldn't lift them up anyways, and that's probably why, as they saw the ECW tapes.
Yeah, well, because I mean, was it the Hammerstein Ballroom in Philadelphia? Is that what it was? The Hammerstein?
Something like that. All I know is it was an old rented bingo hall.
But yeah, like they did. That's where that was the home of ECW, and they would just have like those folded chairs that you see, your abuelita pull out at family
Right?
reunions. Those were the chairs that they had, and he said, "Give me a chair." Okay.
Okay. Everybody gave him a chair.
Yeah, it's one of those moments. It's one of the first things you think of ECW is that moment where they just throw those endless amounts of.
Now picture the ECW thing. Now think about Robin Hood Men in Tights with his whole scene about,
Lend me
friends,
your
Romans,
ears.
countrymen, lend me your ears, and everybody takes off their ear and throws it to him.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just that lovely comedy that, oh my God, it was just so risky and violent at the time for
yeah.
ECW. I mean,
No, yeah, but that's what. But again, though, that's what put it on the map. Though was that unpredictability, and it's the emphasis on that word extreme, extreme. What does extreme mean? That's what extreme is. You don't know what's gonna come. You could
right?
see a guy being
Oh yeah.
tackled through barbed wire. You could see a guy being hit by a chair that's on
Oh,
fire.
dude,
You could see
Terry Funk
something
and his
crazy stuff like that.
barbed wire death matches. I mean, those were great. You mean I give AEW props, for trying to recreate that in the exploding death match or the exploding ring death match that they did with John Moxley and who was it, Kenny Omega? Like a
Yeah,
while ago. It was a
yeah.
long time ago. It was like it was in 2019.
Quotations. Yeah, that was
It
terrible.
was
But
horrible. It was just despicable in the way it came out and looked. The match was great. I thought the match itself was good.
it's
Watching
just that
these
ending was
guys
terrible.
go
But that stuff though originated from Japan though. It wasn't from New
right.
Japan Wrestling. It was from a different promotion. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was a guy I think that came out of New Japan that created that wrestling company. But that company was the first ones to use that deathmatch style, and that's where it came from.
You've got to love it. You really do. You we all know wrestling is entertainment. We know that these are trained athletes.
What?
We know these are trained athletes. But what they do to their bodies is insane, and those matches just just really show that.
Now then, the thing is though, this is the thing about wrestling is that the people that don't get wrestling, it's
Hmm.
like they say, "Well, what's the appeal about wrestling?" It's not the actual wrestling; it's a celebration of sport.
Right.
And that's the way I look at it. It's a celebration of sport. And I mean, you could say, "Oh, well, the Olympics are supposed." No, 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 no. The Olympics that's for glorifying athletes with medals and everything. I think the Olympics have lost a little bit of their luster. That's my
Oh
take.
yeah.
But definitely, wrestling has been it's this doorway into these guys that all they want to do is entertain, but they're using their God given talent to
To
entertain
do
us.
exactly that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, to do exactly that is to entertain. I mean, seeing a live event, I mean, you realize that some of those slaps and chops, they're real slaps and chops. They hurt. You
Oh yeah, just
know,
ask John Stossel. Remember John Stossel from NBC? From NBC?
no, it was
So
comedian or
back in the '80s, John Stossel was a reporter. I think a local reporter in Pittsburgh. I want to say Pittsburgh at that time. It was this wrestler. He was a well-known wrestler at that time, and again, I forget his name too. But it's one of the most famous. It's one of the most famous clips you'll ever see about wrestling. And when someone says, "Well, wrestling's fake," but this dude, he had like curly blonde hair. He was from the '80s, and
oh,
Schultz, I think was his last name, Schultz. And
yeah, no, I'm not sure.
they're doing this interview in in this hallway, and John Stossel says, "Well, you know that wrestling is fake." And all of a sudden, this dude just slaps him in the face, slaps him. I mean, it looks like a harmless slap, but he goes down. Like John Stossel goes down on
Right.
his, and he falls down. And he looks at him. He's like, "Oh, was that fake? Did that feel fake?" That's why I do this at the ring. These guys, when I slap them, they don't go down like you. They're in there they're hitting each other for real. So tell me,
Oh
did that
yeah.
feel fake? And then he hit him again. He hit him
Right.
twice.
Those things where, you know, the the action is not fake. The action is real. These are real hits, real slaps, real chops.
Mhm.
Now, because they take precaution to not injure their opponent and not, break someone's back because of a wrong landing, people look at it like, "Oh, it's fake." No, it's not fake. It is exactly what it is. It is entertainment, but there are
Mhm.
still risks involved. I mean, I can't count the number of times we came out of Album Park with, you know, bruised up bodies and scrapes and cuts all over ourselves from doing stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
Thinking that, oh yeah, it doesn't hurt as much until that first time we took that chop and it was like, shit. And then you wake up the next morning and you feel it even worse. You're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, why am I
Yep.
hurting this bad?
Yep. Yeah. So the wrestler's name was David Schultz. That's his name. David
David
Schultz.
Schultz.
David Schultz when he slaps John Stossel. That's the name of it.
Okay, huh, no, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. It's a classic clip. Classic. But yeah, I mean, you just have these moments where it was just the moments of reality where it hits you, and that's where I think it crosses back on over to that moment in WCW
Right.
with the NWO promos.
Oh yeah, definitely. With those 83 weeks, I mean, the whole NWO, for a while it was just the four NWO members. You had Eric Bischoff as the manager, leader, money guy,
Hmm.
because then he brought in, Ted DiBiase and Virgil, and then I think Macho Man came in after that,
Eventually, hmm
and they started just bringing in everybody. But in the on the backstage things of this, you've got to really think about what was Eric Bischoff doing. He was promising these guys things that, Hulk Hogan mainly, at the time I think, didn't want to lose a match.
yeah. No, he was. This was pure ego. This was Hulk
It was
Hogan.
ego driven.
It was Hollywood Hulk Hogan at his most egotistical.
Yeah.
This was the point where he was like, "Hey, I'm making you guys money. I'm the big draw. I'm the NWO. No one's talking about WCW. They're talking about the NWO. I'm the NWO." And this is where he's at his most egomaniacal.
But it's hard to think about it. I understand it's money. You know, he's the money bringer. He's the one. He's the current days Roman Reigns. Really?
Really? You gonna say that?
Yes, because here's
Okay.
why. And
All
think
right.
about this.
Okay.
Even okay, you know what? Not so much Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. Like
Okay.
they are the quarterbacks of the company right now.
Hmm.
And here's why I say this is, you know, think about a lot of the wrestlers who weren't able to get pushed at that time because of that ego. Think about it on
Well,
the side of Chris Jericho, for example.
no. Well, Chris Jericho. I'll defend Chris Jericho because Chris Jericho wanted to get pushed. Chris Jericho had the talent to be a WCW champion, but
Yeah,
they never gave him a chance. The same thing with
Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie Guerrero. He wanted to do that too. So did Chris Benoit. That's why those four guys. It was Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, and well, those four guys when they left WCW, they were promised some sort of championship. They were promised some sort of glory. And when you fast forward it back into those 2000s, Eddie Guerrero was a champ. Chris Benoit was a champ. Chris Jericho was a champ.
Right?
Dean Malenko, did
Dean
Malenko
Malenko was
ever?
a cruiser. These were all they all had cruiserweight titles. They
At
all
one
in
point, right?
WCW.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when they jumped ship to WWE.
Oh, you're talking when they went over to
Yeah,
WWE.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I believe Chris Benoit did too. Dean Malenko,
No, no,
Dean Malenko had held a U.S. title.
he held the U.S. title. And
Saturn
Saturn
really didn't do much.
was he the European champ?
I think he was the European champ for a while because that was when Ravens flock came around too. That was during the whole DX stuff,
Gotcha.
you know. So when you started to see that push, and a lot of that reason was exactly that.
Right.
These talent, these stars are like, hey, we deserve a push too, but you're not offering it to us. You're giving it to them.
Hmm.
So
Right.
what are they going to do? They're going to jump ship and go to another
A better
company.
opportunity. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
So
exact
then,
and what did Vince McMahon say? Dude, you know what? You're right. You're not getting the pushes you deserve. We'll push you. We'll
yeah,
get you up to that top. And he did with all of them.
right. So then, but let's go ahead and rewind all the way back. A prime example of somebody that that kind of got a push because at that time WCW was doing a cross promotion with New Japan Wrestling. And in New Japan, there was a dude that was with WCW called Scott Norton. And Scott Norton was a big dude. He was a big dude and he won the New Japan N1 championship.
Okay.
So then, yeah, they were doing this cross promotion where you had NWO America and then NWO Japan. It was like
Oh,
the
I don't
modern day Bullet
remember
Club.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Don't you remember with the Great Muda? Remember Great
Oh,
Muda when he was?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So like that they were doing cross promotions with New Japan, and New Japan had their own NWO crew. So it was like NWO New Japan and NWO BCW. So
Bullet
some of
Club all
these,
over again.
yeah, exactly. That's
It's
where
the
the Bullet
start of the
Clubs,
Bullet
yeah,
Club.
exactly. That's where the Bullet Club originated. But Scott Norton was a guy that won the New Japan Wrestling Championship. Then when came over here, when he came back to the United States, he was just, a member of the NWO. They didn't put a lot of respect on that,
Yeah.
which is really awkward because the guy, like I said, he was a big, intimidating dude. If you ever saw him, he was built. He kind of had a beer belly,
Well, I remember Scott Norton.
but he was just a big mean dude.
And he was a brawler. He was just that big brute of a brawler.
Yeah,
And
and he got that push. He got that push in New Japan, but he never got that push in WCW.
And do you think maybe it was Ted Turner saying, "Hey, you know what? We don't want to push the lower mid card because we'd rather push the higher end guys because of that." Even the WCW wrestlers like Ric Flair, Lex Luger, Sting, these are all big
The big
name
names, yeah,
pushers, right? The
yeah.
Steiner brothers, if you want to even look that way. Who?
The four horsemen.
There you go. Yeah.
The four horsemen. We know with Arn Anderson, Mongo McMichael, and I think Chris Benoit was part of them
Chris
too,
Benoit was part of that. Yeah, it was,
and Ric Flair, of course. Yeah,
and Steve Mongo McMichael.
R.I.P.
Yep, got to give him that. I remember the whole Four Horsemen versus NWO,
Mm-hmm.
fights. Those were great fights. The pay-per-views, I remember watching them on like AOL on some not pirate one, but like where they're streaming it.
They were pirate.
No, it was, you know what? It was actually the beginning of streaming because WCW actually used to stream it on AOL or
Right.
on
And
another one like that.
because that's when Time Warner took over.
Yeah. You know what? Pirate streaming, it happens, dude. Unfortunately, it does happen. I don't condone it. I don't say it's good. I don't say no.
Yeah.
You know, it happens.
Right. No, but it's just funny. But yeah, but one of the issues with WCW where, I mean, it just seemed that they were just it got too big. At some point, it got way too big.
WCW that got too big, or if it was the NWO got too big. Because if you think about it, three-quarters of the company was NWO.
I mean, that was the issue. Like you couldn't tell good guy from bad guy anymore. That's why they had to split up that Hollywood
That's when you got the
Hogan and that
Wolfpack.
Wolfpack. Yeah, that Wolfpack side. And then they had their little mashup, and then they got back together again as the NWO with Hollywood Hogan. I was like, they were just reunited. But
I don't remember, I remember Sting was part of the NWO when he did the whole Crow Sting thing.
yeah, then he became Wolfpack
Did he
Sting.
actually go Wolfpack? Okay.
Yeah, don't you remember he had the red face paint for a while?
That's right. That's
Yeah, he
right.
had yeah. So it was Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Sting, Six. I think Conan was part of the Wolfpack too. K Dog,
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
K
He was
Dog.
he was part of the Wolfpack. I think even like one of the Steiners, I think, was part of it too, wasn't he?
Was Scott Steiner? Was Scott Steiner Wolfpack?
It was the whole fight between the two. It might have been Scott Steiner.
Huh?
I'm
Was it Scott Steiner? I'll,
You know what?
because
You're
at that
gonna
time
have
he was pushing that Big Papa Pump. That's when he started
Yeah.
the Big Papa Pump
That's when he started the
gimmick.
whole Big Papa Pump thing, and that's when
Yeah.
him and Rick had the falling out.
hmm Yeah, but that Wolfpack, I hear a lot of people when they talk about the Wolfpack, they were cool, but they weren't like still like that first generation
Of the
of the
NWO.
NWO. So
Yeah.
like yeah, you had so it was Kevin Nash was the official leader, Sting, Macho Man Randy Savage, Lex Luger, K Dog, and then eventually also Scott Hall, Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, Miss Elizabeth, Rick Rude, and yeah, one time Dusty Rhodes.
Yep, there we go.
So yeah, but yeah, like the Wolfpack, they were cool, but they were not as cool as that first iteration of the NWO.
In the business side of things, you've got Eric Bischoff sitting there saying, "Fuck, I don't know how to end this shit." Like this is,
Yeah,
we've been doing this for 2 years now, and there's no way to end it.
yeah, and instead of trying to make it smaller or trying to continue, it got bigger and bigger. And like I just told you, and he went to Japan.
Hmm. Oh
It went
yeah.
overseas. That's how big it got. It got so big it got even overseas. So yeah, it was just this uncontrollable thing where it just seemed like every week it was like a new member of the NWO would join,
Right.
and yeah, that's where I think Eric Bischoff lost a little bit of control of that because these guys, these basically the second tier wrestlers, and I hate to use that, but these mid card guys, they wanted more money because they were in the NWO.
Right.
Buff Bagwell, oh my
Oh,
goodness! Imagine giving Buff Bagwell the same amount of money as Hulk Hogan because he's in the NWO. Come on, dude.
see now see here's the thing. Here's the thing on that one is, you know, I agree. You can't. There's no way you can compare it. I mean, Hulk Hogan is, 40 years in wrestling and has been the top
The
dog,
face, the face of
the
wrestling.
face of wrestling. Yeah.
hmm
But then you've got, up and comers like Buff Bagwell, who are like, hey, I want to be that. Like, I want to get there.
I'll
And
give
I
Buff
think
Bagwell.
really
I'll
this
give
is
Buff Bagwell that thing though, where he did have the charisma. He did have the
oh, he
charisma.
was great. He had the promotionable ability. He was great. He could do promos, he could talk, he could wrestle. Overall, he was a great character. You know,
Shout out to those two great movies he made: Day of the Warrior and Return to Savage Beach.
now you're coming up to we're talking late 97
Uh,
where Vince McMahon has realized what he needs to do and sort of begun to make those changes. He makes that announcement before was it a pay-per-view?
I think it was before a
Was
Raw,
it before
where
Raw? It
he's
was
like
like before Raw. I
the
want to say it was like a
lines,
Sunday night that he made it or something. And he tells
the
them like,
lines are being blurred between good
yeah,
guys and bad guys.
right. Basically, is telling the fans and everything like, hey, you know what? We're not going to do this cartoonish stuff anymore. We're gonna make this a little more adult oriented. Which started, it completely starts that era that we all really loved was the Attitude Era.
Yeah, the attitude. I mean, we still talk about the Attitude Era, and people, of course, then they still have their Attitude Era T-shirts. They have their Attitude Era
Right.
characters. I mean,
Well, you've got the
you have
DX,
Stone
all the
Cold Steve Austin,
right.
The Rock.
Well, you know what though? The Rock, I mean, he sort of
Oh no, no, it
no,
has to be The Rock. You
but
have
did
to throw
he
The Rock in
okay,
there.
so here's my question on The Rock. Did
Mhm.
he start at the beginning of the Attitude Era, or did he become The Rock of more of what we know The Rock as towards the middle of the Attitude Era? Because I remember him in the Attitude Era as Rocky Maivia wrestling in the blue trunks with the headband.
Yeah, die Rocky die.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, like he pushed the Attitude Era. He did come in like in the middle because Stone Cold Steve Austin was having his moment. So was DX. They were having their moment. Satanic Undertaker was having his moment too.
Yeah.
So yeah, all that crazy stuff.
I definitely consider him part of the Attitude Era. No doubt about it. But was it The Rock or was it the whole Nation of Domination, which really then he developed more into that Rock character?
No, well, he wanted to push another direction because like I was saying before, there was a die Rocky die chant, and he even said it himself that that he wanted to honor his grandfather and his dad,
Right.
but that gimmick just wasn't working. It wasn't working. As great as he wanted to make it work, it just did not work. People just saw it that way, and that's why you have the creation of The Rock. He said, I need to do something on my own, something different, something that maybe these guys have never seen." So he took that God-given talent that he has of the mic skills that he has, that imagination that he has, and he turned it into The Rock.
And he became, the final boss.
Exactly. So yeah, so you have this evolution of The Rock where he comes in and he's Rocky Maivia. They hated the Rocky Maivia gimmick. It
Oh
was
yeah.
it was a it was it
Everybody
was
hated it.
it was a bad gimmick, and
It was
that's not
horrible.
his. It's not his fault. Like Vince.
No, that's a
He
writer's
knew.
fault,
Yeah,
really. But
like
but
he
here's my
wanted.
question.
That's what he wanted
Did
to
the
do.
writers go off the information that he gave them? Hey, I want to try to do something for my dad and my grandfather. And the writers say, well, okay, let's try this. And it didn't work. But that's wrestling. You try a gimmick, sometimes it doesn't work. Look at Husky Harris, who became,
Or,
God bless him, Bray Wyatt, who was a master at art.
but that's the thing though, is that Bray Wyatt had a great gimmick, but it never went anywhere. It
He,
didn't go anywhere. He didn't. He That was one of the best gimmicks of the past 20 years. It really
oh,
was.
yeah.
But it never won anything. He didn't win anything.
He had the belt as the Fiend for a while. Didn't he also have a championship as Bray Wyatt for a while?
For like a month.
I mean, personally, but here's my question on that then. Let's, talking current stuff now. Bray Wyatt stuff,
Right.
semi-current.
Right.
Okay? Did he not go anywhere because the fans didn't like him, or did he not go anywhere because the company failed him?
That's a great question because I mean,
The fans loved
the,
him, dude.
the fans love the gimmick. They saw everything. I mean, you saw the Fireflies. They bought into it. They
Yeah.
bought into it. You saw the people. You saw the Fireflies with their phones up.
Yeah.
They bought it. They bought into it big time. But they never pushed them. They never pushed it. They should have
So
pushed it.
is that more a failure on the company's part then?
Absolutely, it's a failure on the company.
So now let's think about this. Let's take Bray Wyatt and put them into that Attitude Era.
Okay.
This is during that perfect Monday Night War Attitude Era. Do
Mhm.
you think the fans would have liked him as much as they did at the time in 2016?
I'm gonna go with no, and here's why. It's another gimmick. People are done with gimmicks. Like the people were just were they wanted that reality feel. That's what they wanted to
Mhm.
do. They wanted that reality feel. They wanted that person that was gonna bring that grounded surface like Stone Cold Steve Austin, like The Rock, like Triple H. And then you have this guy running around in a hat with a lantern
Oh,
all the time.
let's put a point there. Okay, it
Mhm.
was you're right. I definitely think that people would have seen it as a gimmick, but the WWF at that time was still doing gimmicky stuff. Look at Goldust.
Okay, which is a terrible gimmick.
Very much so. Look at I mean, do we want to go down the list of wrestlers here? I mean,
We're talking about attitude era gimmicks, right? Okay,
mhm.
Godfather. For some reason, it did hit,
And
but
it hit
that's
well.
because it did well, but that's because, you had the whole train.
Well, that was the only reason that it hit, definitely.
Which
You've got the Undertaker with the whole demon Undertaker gimmick with the
yeah, yeah,
Brood.
yeah, yeah, the Brood were they're semi vampires.
Yeah.
The Brood.
I want to say the Dark Order, but no, Dark Order is AEW, and
No, Dark no,
that was a much
no,
yeah.
the and now I think you wanna say is WCW. What was that? What was Kevin Sullivan's group? What were they called?
Oh God, the yes, the monster truck battle, Hulk Hogan, the Giant. It was
Yeah,
during that
yeah,
same
yeah,
time frame.
they had it was like a freak show, but like, yeah, it was led by Kevin Sullivan,
Yeah,
the I forget. I'm old. I didn't consider that a great gimmick either.
and so I really wonder. I mean, I think it would be interesting to see, if maybe it would have given a little bit more of a push to Bray Wyatt, like have him versus the Undertaker in that devil versus cult leader type, match.
Well, I mean, if you
Or him
wanted
versus
that,
his group, you have them versus the Brood.
mhm,
So, you've got, three big wrestlers. Braun
mhm,
Strowman definitely was huge. Luke Rowan.
right. I think it was the Wyatt family.
Yeah, the Wyatt family. It's the family.
Yeah,
So you have them versus the Brood. I think it could have done something. I think it
but
really
that's the thing though, because like I remember back in the day that WWE tried to bring in a wrestler to be the Undertaker's equal. There was supposed to be this character that they brought in to be like the opposite of the Undertaker.
okay.
And it was a gimmick that it was supposed to be hyped up, but it was a terrible, terrible gimmick because it was this guy that was dressed in white. He was supposed to be the opposite of the
Right, yeah,
Undertaker.
it was like the whole prophecy thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it was just a terrible, terrible gimmick.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that one I mean, I remember, like, the group that was talking out about, you know, all the porn stuff during the whole time of Val Venus and The Godfather and all that, with, Melina? They were all dressed in, like, all suits and stuff, and I think Val Venus was even part of that.
Oh no, you're talking about right to censor.
Yeah, Right to Censor, and
So
that was
that
during
was
the,
Stevie Richards, the good father. We need to convert it. Then it was Val Venus,
imagine Right to Censor versus the Wyatt family.
right? Right. I,
Yeah.
Ivory. Yes, that was right to censor. Right to censor. Yeah, that was. Oh, I mean, that was a gimmick that was like in between the ad. I think it was like right at the pinnacle, right at the point when they're transitioning to the Attitude Era into the Ruthless
Is that
Aggression
was
Era.
that into Ruthless Aggression?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
starting to get there. Yeah, that was
If we go back to the Attitude Era, let's discuss the King of the Ring match in '98. classic Attitude Era, and this is when the WWE started to use that whole Attitude Era because you had, you know, Mick Foley getting thrown off of a fucking steel cage.
And that was his idea. That was all Mick Foley's idea, and he told the Undertaker, "Just throw me off. Just
Yeah.
toss me. Just toss me."
Well, and, the funny part about that though, and really is that, you know, you've got Jim Ross, JR, you've got him, sitting there, good God Almighty, that killed him, like, and
He's broken in half. God
yeah,
Almighty,
you
he's
see
broken
him
in
just
half.
flop over, and it's like, holy cow. But then he gets back up, goes back to the top of the cell,
With the
and
famous
then
tooth coming
gets
out of his nose.
choke slammed through the cell to the mat, and then crashed in the face by the chair.
Yeah, that was something that we never. Yeah, that was something that we never seen before. That was something that they were absolutely pushing the envelope. Where again, it's the whole thing: put asses in seats.
Oh, yeah.
But you're gonna see something that you're never gonna see before.
You
But
have to laugh about it because growing up back then, we saw this and watched it, and we're like, "Oh my god, like, wow." Like Mick Foley saying, "Well, yeah, we sort of lied to Vince to be able to do that and had told him that we had actually gotten up there and tried it, so we knew it would hold." When Mick Foley hadn't even gone up there with The Undertaker, and The Undertaker was like, "No, fuck that. I was scared as shit to do
yeah,
that."
he was scared shitless. He admitted he was scared shitless to do that.
And that I think right there is sort of the beginning of that downfall of these, WCW really.
The downfall of WCW started with a pay-per-view that they had, and I forgot the name of the pay-per-view, but it was during this pay-per-view that there was some sort of issue with the broadcast. And it was during, I think, a Goldberg match where they lost total signal. They just lost the signal for no reason whatsoever. They just lost the signal. And then from there, it just avalanche came apart for WCW, where you had Hulk Hogan, of course, and again, egomaniac, his most egotistical self. I have to be champ. I have to be. And then you have that famous event that happened where he pokes Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash falls,
Yeah, the finger
and
poke
yeah,
of
yeah,
doom.
yeah.
What happened that same night as the finger poke of doom?
That I don't
Yeah,
remember anything
that's
else before
Tony
that.
Schiavone telling everybody, "Oh, by the way, Mick Foley wins the belt tonight on WWE, so you don't have to worry about changing the channel to go over there."
That was the same night.
That was the same exact night. So now
Oh
what did
man.
that do? Everybody's like, "Shit, Mick Foley's going to win the belt. We're going to switch over to that and see it," because Mick
Mhm.
Foley was that working wrestler who was finally getting his push.
Yeah, 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 and yeah, that was another reason. That was just this cascade of stupidity after dumb decisions, big contracts to guys that didn't earn it. Kevin Nash also being hurt all the time too with that famous hamstring. It was just this cascade of stuff that was started happening with WCW, where
Yeah.
it became, after those 83 weeks of clown show.
I think the mistake was VCW thinking at that point or by that time that they were big enough to do what they were doing in the sense of giving away the spoilers for the other company. Tony Schiavone says this, and then right then and there, you're talking 600,000 households switch over to USA to go watch Monday Night Raw and see Mick Foley win the belt.
Mhm.
It was just at that point, it was just a landslide. It was just
At the time, my parents were good friends with these other people that they were also from Arizona, and they were very close to each other. We would go over almost every Sunday to their house to have like these barbecues or to get-togethers. And I remember going over their house, and they had this program on WCW. It was kind of like this news oriented type of show on TBS, I think it was. And they were kind of like doing this rearranging. I don't know. It was weird. It was weird when I saw it. And I'm asking these guys like, what the hell's going on? Like what are they doing? And they're like, oh yeah, like they're completely changing their storylines. Like they're gonna shut down the company for 2 weeks and redo the storylines. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is like it's near the end of WCW for sure.
Right.
And when they came back, they actually had a character, a female bodybuilder named Asia, to counteract
To
China.
counter China.
She was a Ric Flair valet, blonde hair, bodybuilder type named Asia. And it
Yeah.
was terrible.
I think I, I think
Terrible.
I think by that point I had already sort of gone off
The WCW line?
the
Yeah.
WCW line. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was watching wrestling when I could. So it was,
Yeah.
Monday night was whatever I could catch, by later on in those years,
Mhm.
so it was like, oh, hey, I can watch Raw tonight, or hey, I can see the last 10 minutes of Nitro and then flip it over and watch the last hour and a half or hour of Raw,
And then
but
switch it back so I could watch Mortal Kombat Conquest.
seeing yeah, by that time we're talking 99. So by that time, that's junior year in high school.
Yeah, and then at this time also, both companies were doing 3 hours of wrestling, and
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
I remember they came back and WCW has scaled it back to 2 hours.
Hmm.
Again, you've seen the ripple effect of each company, how it affected each other. And yeah, WCW, you started seeing that they were losing because they instead of 3 hours, 2 hours.
Then you had, shows like Thunder on Thursday nights, which
Hmm.
was there to counteract SmackDown for
Hmm.
WWE.
Hmm. Exactly. And Thunder, my goodness, that was funny because I remember watching this one dude from WCW Thunder, just this dude named Glacier.
Oh, oh yeah, I remember Glacier,
This Mortal Kombat Sub
Sub
Zero
Zero. Yeah,
Team Sub Zero, terrible, terrible. He go out there, I'm just like, oh my god, it's terrible, terrible.
and that's the question there of,
No
what?
offense to the guy that made that
No,
was
no,
the
no,
character
no.
of Glacier. No offense to him. It was just a terrible, terrible
It
gimmick.
was a terrible story,
Terrible
gimmick.
gimmick.
Yeah, it
Yes.
was. Think about that time now. We're getting into 2001. This is when we're starting to see, sort of like the end of ECW. Paul Heyman's like, hey, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm wrapping it up. We're done. And you sort of begin to see that crossover. You see Paul Heyman go to WWE
Well,
and
that
start as a
well,
commentator.
well, that's the problem with ECW. The thing is that ECW finally gets on TV. They're on TNN.
Right.
They're on TNN, but TNN says, "Hey, you can't do the stuff that you were doing before. You got to tone it down a bit." And that's what happened. They toned down ECW, and it wasn't ECW anymore.
Yeah. As far as the ECW thing, it was like, okay, you know what? ECW was never one of those big name companies, but they were big enough named that people did like them. Now you had two really big name companies with two, a multimillionaire and a multi-billionaire owner, who are battling, and they're basically, you know, pardon my French, but they're swinging their dicks around saying, "I've got the bigger one."
Oh yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, with ECW, I mean, they didn't have the structure, they didn't have the money that
No.
WCW and WWF had. It was just this little company out of Pennsylvania, Eagles, and it was just this company that they fought and they fought and they fought and they did the best they could with what they had, and it was they had a lot of memorable stuff. They really did. It's just that they couldn't sustain it.
Right. And I think really the same thing sort of happened with WCW. By that time they realized they had messed up. Like, unfortunately, you had, Ted Turner, who just realized, like, damn, I didn't do this the way I should have, and I think it's time just to go ahead and we're going to wrap this whole thing up,
Well,
you know.
it wasn't even Ted Turner that did that. It was when AOL bought Time Warner.
Oh,
When that merger happened, AOL had no interest in wrestling at all.
uh,
It's like we want TNT to be this superstation where we have movies, shows, sports, no wrestling.
And that's it.
And that was it. That's what buried the hatchet, was when he sold them to AOL, and AOL said, no, we're not going to be, we're too family oriented. We're too much to have this raunchy crap on TV.
Right.
And that's what really killed WCW.
Well, with that though, you've got to talk about the genius of Vince McMahon, who's saying, "Hey Ted, you're screwed. You have no option. Here's what I'll do for you. You're talking $2.5 million to buy out the company, on top of getting, you know, all of their history,
Roster.
which means well, their roster as well as their history,
Mhm.
which means you've got all those old 1990, 1989 NWA stuff, which was all included
And
with this.
and that wasn't even the name was WCW. That was when it was Crockett Productions.
Right. Wrestling.
That's when it was like still the territory days.
Hmm. You've got now all this media that you can now put out, and with it, you can burn down the company the way you want it to in the beginning, and you can have your son, Shane McMahon, go over and be like, "Hey, Dad, I bought the company."
No, and that was a great gimmick. That was
It was a genius way to do it.
and it was so funny because I remember them promoting that as the last WCW, the last Monday Night Nitro. Like,
Right.
and I remember watching it, and I'm like, oh man, this is really happening. This is really happening. They're shutting down WCW. And I remember watching it on TNT, and I'm sitting there on my couch, just laid out, watching it. I'm like, wow, this is surreal. Like, they're actually closing the company. Then at the same time thinking, like, wow, what's gonna happen to all these guys? What's gonna happen to all these dudes? And then all of a sudden, you see Vince McMahon's face on that screen in a WCW event. I was like, okay,
Right.
I was like, wait a second, time out. So then I had to switch over to USA Network because they were having their simulcast with Raw.
Right.
And it was both at the same time, where they had on USA Network, they had the WCW broadcast. I'm like, what is going on? Well, this is wild. I've never seen this before. So again, this is that whole reality thing. And they were able to build that invasion storyline from there. And I'm like, this is genius. This is genius what they're doing. They're
It was the
repackaging
perfect way.
WCW. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a perfect way of repackaging the company.
And I only wish that UCW would have still been around as WCW, not just being folded into WWF. But I wish there would have been like WWF. Okay, we have Monday Night Raw on Monday, and then you have Nitro on Thursday.
Okay.
I
But
wish they
what
would have
about
done it that
SmackDown?
way. What's up?
So you're saying drop SmackDown and then just have it BCW Nitro on Thursday nights and then
Hmm.
Raw on Monday nights?
Yeah, but I get it. I get why they did, because the roster's too big. The salaries have been astronomical.
Oh
I
yeah,
understand that.
well,
Absolutely.
it's definitely, on the business side of things, the rosters were immense. I mean, they still have that problem today, dude. Like, look at their roster size right now, and we see maybe a quarter of those wrestlers actually wrestle.
It's true. And that's the issue. Like WWF Nitro Thursdays,
Well, that would be interesting.
right? Right? You have the Nitro brand, you have the Raw brand. I wish that's what they would have kept it, but they kept it as Raw and SmackDown. But I get it. I get it. I
Well,
totally get
and
it. But that's just
it's
what I
really
want.
one of those things where you sort of have to really look at it and ask, at that point when this happened, you know, I remember watching it a little bit longer after the whole invasion thing and stuff, and seeing it, and it's like, has it really, did it destroy it for the casual fan? Because by that point, you know, you've now become a monopoly. You own wrestling.
Hmm.
So all I
Yeah.
can watch is WWE. I think really with because of the way they did it, because by then there's really not really anything else to watch. I mean, you had Ring of Honor, like,
Yeah. But Ring of Honor was in infancy. I mean, Ring of Honor, it was that indie style that
right.
I love. And eventually,
Wasn't
then you also
I would
have
say wasn't
TNA.
TNA around that same time frame too?
TNA had just started.
Because TNA got the outcast from WCW who didn't go to WWE. I mean, you had Joker Sting in TNA.
Mhm.
I want to say Kurt Angle was in TNA for a while
That
too,
was
was he?
that was a little bit after.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was like
Jeff Jarrett.
guitar smashing people.
The honky tonk man,
Yeah. Well, the newer version of the Honky Tonk
right?
Man, but
The newer
that's
version of the honky
exactly
tonk.
what he
Yeah,
was.
yep, yeah, Jeff Jarrett. Yeah, but I think maybe some people forget that TNA was actually a Jeff Jarrett promotion first.
Was it really? Okay, I didn't
Yeah, it
realize it
was
was
started by
specifically Jeff Jarrett.
yeah, but then he got pushed out of it eventually.
Well,
But yeah,
it's sort of the way the wrestling thing does. I mean, look at AEW, with that one when it started, you had Cody, Kenny, the Young Bucks.
well, because it was started by those guys though, because they had that indie pay per view
Hmm.
that it wasn't even called AEW. It was just called All Out. And it was just that indie promotion where, they got a bunch of indie guys and they said, you know what, let's put on a show that's equal to WrestleMania. Let's put on the show and let's go all. And
Right.
that's just had it there, in Chicago, where, we know it's a rabid fan base for wrestling.
Oh yeah,
And
Chicago. I
it's
mean, it's been a huge town for wrestling for years.
exactly, exactly. That's why they call it the second city because, it's New York and Chicago. That's what's called the second city. So then they just put all these guys that were internet darlings, like the Young Bucks. Nobody, I can tell you right now, nobody knew who the Young Bucks were until they started doing their internet thing. When they started doing Being the Elite, that's when you started seeing these guys named the Young Bucks, and you started
Mhm.
seeing these guys from New Japan Wrestling, Kenny
And
Omega.
and see, and that's exactly where it comes from. I think definitely, because you have a lot of those in NJPW, characters who came over.
But still, they're still in that reality package. They're still in that
Yeah.
reality based. But that was the evolution that we've come to with wrestling, where you have it this full circle, where you had the stupid gimmick era
Hmm.
into the NWO reality era, then into the WWE attitude era, ruthless aggression, and then you have this full circle where it's that reality based
But see, even the whole
timeline.
ruthless aggression era,
Hmm.
of WWE, it was
Hmm.
still really reality based. I think really just in gen. Hold on a second there. Then let's discuss something really quickly.
Right.
Lucha Libre wrestling, these masked wrestlers and stuff like that. Is that gimmicky? Is it a gimmick or is it
No,
a
no, that's tradition.
personality?
That's tradition. That's tradition because the mask tells the story of this person. The mask is
Okay.
that person. It's
Okay.
not a gimmick. It's who they are. It's a personality.
I was actually curious on how you saw it, and because I know you come from that culture,
Mhm.
it is one of those things where, to me, it's not a gimmick. For
Yeah.
these characters, it is their character. It is who they are as a character.
I mean, right now, the pioneer of the father of lucha libre of the Mexican lucha, El Santo,
Yeah,
he never took his mask off because that was him. He was
that
El
was him.
Santo.
Yeah.
He was El Santo. He was a hero too. Americans have Captain America. We have El Santo. He wrestled. He made movies. He made public appearances. He was our best representative for wrestling at that time. During, you're talking about the 50s, 60s, 70s, even into the 80s. This guy he was everything in that culture. So when you say stuff like the mask, is it something goofy? No, no, it's who they are. It tells a story of who they are. It tells a story of who they're facing because for years it was El Santo contra El Blue Demon.
Right.
So then you had these two massive stars in Mexico that would go each other, but it was the mask that would tell the story.
Right. No, and that's exactly why I was saying, it's like gimmick wrestling nowadays. I don't see it as much. It's more nowadays. It really is more of that sort of that reality TV entertainment style
Yeah,
of wrestling.
yeah. And if you see a gimmick, I mean, it's just these gimmicks that are way over the top, or this
Luchasaurus.
Luchasaurus, exactly. But that
But
dude
you
can
know what?
actually wrestle.
The guy can wrestle and the fans love it.
Yeah, yeah. As goofy as that may sound, and as goofy as it is, it works.
Mhm.
That's the one gimmick I
Exactly.
can tell you that right now at this point you could say, "Oh my god, this is so stupid," but then when you see it, it's like, okay, now I get it
Right.
because I am
Exactly.
actually a fan of Luchasaurus. I do love Luchasaurus. So yeah, yeah, Lucha.
You know what,
Uh,
man? It has definitely been one of those days where, you know, trying to figure all this information out. There's so
right.
many details, like it makes my brain hurt.
No,
It
no,
really does.
but it's funny though because like we're older now and we see these things and it's just funny to look back on things because like you could say that it's silly, but at the same time it was something that we were grounded to. I know I definitely fell into and I fell in love with wrestling again because there was a period where I was out of it, then I came back into it, and I've been into it ever since then.
No, definitely. That's definitely one of those, I'm never going to stop wanting to watch wrestling. I think it might have already started. Goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to take this trip down nostalgia lane with us again, we are cutscenes and clotheslines. You can follow us on TikTok at cutscenes.clotheslines for videos, highlights, and check out our official Instagram at cutscenes and clotheslines, where you could just see us goofing off, talking about all kinds of stuff.
Wants to have, this argument with Fernie, definitely make sure you go and check out our Discord channel. Our server is actually on our Spotify page there, info. So you can look on that, click on the link there, and that'll get you sent to our Discord server. And we'd love to chat with you. Feel free to send us a message. Give us ideas for future shows if you're interested in anything. And if you ever want to give us any feedback or anything, you can send that directly to us at cutscenes and clotheslines at gmail.com.
And now we're going on to a little preview for next week. Next week we are moving from the squared circle to the living room carpet. We're gonna be breaking down Orange Splats, the Midnight Society, and the undisputed
Wait,
greatest Saturday night television lineup
wait.
in the history.
We're talking Snick.
Snick.
We're gonna have some fun with that.
We're gonna have some
Well,
fun. I'm gonna have me some fun. I'm gonna have me
all
some
right,
fun.
folks. Well, we will catch you all next week. Don't forget, drop your quarters into the machines because we're just getting started here with cutscenes and clotheslines. I hope you all have
Fight.
a wonderful night, and we will be talking to you soon. And always, just remember, Fernie hates
FVD.
gimmicks.
I hate gimmicks. FVD hates gimmicks.